Hi, and welcome back to MTOP series on the legal and political truths of rezoning in New York City. This is our part 2, and we're talking about private requests for rezonings. My name is Alicia Boyd, and let's just go ahead and begin. Private rezoning. This is when a private person who owns a piece of property wants to go in and make some changes to their property, their zoning laws, so they can do something that they can't do currently. Some are discretionary actions where the city agency is completely up to the city agency to do. These are very minor stuff. For example, like the Fresh program, if a developer wants to add a couple of more stories onto their property by putting in a Fresh program, which is fruits and vegetables underneath on the ground floor, they're able to get that without having to go through a lengthy legal process. And it's completely discretionary up to the Department of City Planning, based upon some rules, of course. Then there are significant requests where most people hear about these sometimes. It's via the ULUP process, the Uniform Land Use Review process. It's a political process. I'm sure a lot of people already know about it. It's 7 months. After the Department of City Planning certifies the application, the community board gets an opportunity to weigh in on the application, advisory only. The borough president gets to weigh in, advisory only. Then you got the City Planning Commission who votes on it, which is basically the mayor, because the mayor controls that commission. So it's like the mayor's commission. And then it comes to the city council. Well, here's where your local city council person has the power over that application, because they can pull the plug on it if they choose to, because there is what we call member deference for the most part, where the local member can say no to an application and everybody kind of goes along with it and says no to it. And that what allows communities to maintain some control and power over what happens in their community via their city council person. And then finally, the mayor. The mayor can only override a yes, cannot override a no. And so again, the city council person is the one who has most of the power in the private rezoning application. When you are going to have a development project like the one that you see inside here, which was being proposed along the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens, you have to submit that application to the Department of City Planning, and only 60% of those applications that they get are certified. So, you know, if it doesn't have political support, if the mayor is not supporting, if the city council person is not supporting, it's not going to get certified. And let's be clear, the Department of City Planning is considered the arm of the real estate. Even though it's a city agency that's supposed to work on behalf of the public, they are heavily lobbied. And in this application that you see, we found records that the developer spent over $600,000 and $200,000 on the planner who was working on his project. And so why? Because the planner who's doing this can show the developer ways to bend the law, sometimes even to break it. They can extend the parameters that include other neighboring, so other neighboring properties can get the same benefits. You know, so there's ways in which the Department of City Planning planners can really help developers get more of what they want. Okay. Now, once an application is certified by the Department of City Planning, it has a 99.9% chance of becoming law. And the only time that that doesn't happen mostly is when the city council person eventually says, you know, no, we don't want. And most of the time that's because of the pressure that's put on the city council person by the public. So there are limitations to what a private applicant can do, right? Private applicants cannot ask for a district-wide rezoning. That means they cannot ask for, not supposed to ask for, you know, to change the zoning of other properties that they don't have control over. They cannot have an agency be a part of their application. For example, in CB9, you know, the Book and Community Board, CB9, wanted to be a co-applicant on a private application. And that's a no-no. You can't do that. They're not supposed to engage in spot rezonings, but there is the magic word. And what is a spot rezoning? Normally, it's where you have a swath of land and it's all one type. Like, for example, it's 2 stories all along the corridor, 2 or 3 blocks of 2 stories. And here comes a developer with his own little private property and he wants to go up 20 stories. That's classified as a spot rezoning because you're just trying to take that one spot and change it. And technically, it's supposed to be against the law. But there's a magic word that they use, and it's called affordable. Once they say that magic word, then spot rezonings are no longer respected by the courts. And, you know, they do it all the time. Now it's just commonplace for developers to come in and do that. However, these rezonings are costly to them, right? They have to pay off the mayor, they have to pay off the city council person, they have to pay off the city planner, you know, they got to do all this lobbying, you know. So imagine if you spent $600,000 on lobbying fees. That's the stuff that we see. What about all the money that we didn't see under the table? So it can be costly to them. That's why the city of Yes housing text amendments is so important to developers and why there's such a push in the community to get these text amendment changes, because a lot of the things that developers want, they will no longer have to ask for. It would be as of right. So they won't have to sit there and put an application in because they can just do it. They will be able to just go into your community and build whatever they want to build, how they want to build it, and will not have to negotiate at all. However, there are legal challenges, right? You can challenge private property. And, you know, this is costly to developers because when they hire their private attorneys charge them. It can be very costly to them. However, in the lower courts, there are honest judges, and so they can get their zoning overturned. However, there's a high probability of success in the appellate division because the first department and second department is known to almost 99% of the time support the developers and the city's position and override the lower courts. Most communities that do these legal challenges are upscale, white, affluent communities. And so they're the ones who have the money to organize and to create, to challenge these rezonings, these private rezonings. Agreements and restraining orders of the courts are not respected. So it's really important to understand that. For example, upper middle class community in the Upper East Side, West Side, challenged the rezoning, and the developer wanted to keep building during the case of the court. Well, there was an agreement that was made in the court, by the court, the lower court, and said, well, if you lose, you have to bring down the number of stories. Well, they lost. And then they went to the second department, and the second department didn't honor that agreement. And so the community lost, and the development still happened. Okay, and we're going to talk about some of the benefits of why that is important. Developers also face no consequences when they violate restraining orders. In our case, they violated the restraining order 3 times because we had a restraining order that would not allow them to build, because we knew that once they started building, our case would be moot. So they kept violating the restraining order and kept trying to build, lay down the foundation. But again, you know, nobody got penalized. They did not, nothing happened to them. And then community benefits. A lot of community benefits, people don't even try to challenge community benefits any longer legally because they're just not enforceable. New York City has the worst, including the city, at adhering to community benefits. Right now, there's Community Board 8 in Brooklyn that has a lot of development under Crystal Hudson, the city council person, where all these community benefits will be there, but nobody can find them. They're not signed, they're not enforceable, they're not a part of the zoning. It's just, community benefits, especially in communities of color, just don't ever materialize for the most part. Now, so what are the benefits to the challenges? Well, one of the benefits to the challenges is to get the city to adhere to the law. So like in that case where that developer had to sit there and was supposed to reduce their stories, at least there was a determination that they couldn't do what they had done to get those stories, those heights. And so that forced the city to stop that practice. So a lot of times, even though you might lose in the court, you win in the world because that particular practice doesn't happen any longer. So that's important. It also signals to developers when a community does file lawsuits that, hey, this community is organized. And so do we really want to spend the millions of dollars that it's going to take to get a development project up and running in a community that's organized and that might challenge us legally? So sometimes they'll just avoid that community, or they'll do as of right. For example, in my community, there's a lot of development on Empire Boulevard, and it's as of right. You know, they're not willing to sit there and go through all the legal loopholes, and they're like, hey, we have an opportunity to build here. We're going to build. We're going to do it as of right, and we're going to stay contextual within the community. We're going to put housing here. We're going to put commercial here, and it's, you know, and we're not going to, you know, go through legal ramifications of rezoning. However, that's not everyone, right? We do have a development project. A developer has tight connections with the mayor, gotten support from the local city council person, and so they're challenging and trying to break our rezoning on that corridor as well. So you can get both. The ones who will do as of right and the ones who will challenge, again, depending upon the political environment that you find yourself in. Okay, well, who are we? We are MTOP, the Movement to Protect the People. We're a grassroots organization. We've been in existence for over a decade. We're in the Crown Heights Flatbush community. We were one of the first communities of color to stop a district-wide rezoning. And we also made history when we prevented an application that had been certified from moving forward in the process, making history of that 1%. And how do you contact us? Well, we have a website. It has a lot of information. It has our YouTube channel on there. We can watch more of these types of videos, or you can reach out and just speak to someone at 718-703-3086. Again, 718-703-3086. And we look forward to seeing you at our next video, which would be part 3, talking about community boards and their requests for rezonings. Thank you for coming.